this was an inevitability. Talk about the sequel trilogy and if the stigma for that will go away. This will be different from my prequel video that I did with the stigma because it's different. The sequel trilogy is more relevant and there's more factors that go into it than the prequel trilogy did because of the difference in when they were released. And I feel like I start off with the films themselves. Start from there. And the stigma around those films, in terms of the future, that's what I'm referring to, the future audience that will eventually watch this trilogy, would people have a different outlook on it? And I don't think that they will, because the film is a film, alright? The entire trilogy is not planned out, and it's very evident by it. And because, to us, when we first watched it, we had to wait 2 years to see these films. In that 2 years, we had speculations, theories, all these different type of leaks that came out, hyping us up, think that The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens are going to be the best films ever. But they didn't. They're actually disappointments, sort of, kind of, and it pissed a lot of people off. But to new audiences, they're going to watch it all in one go, or it's going to be like a day break, because I think a normal person wouldn't watch it all like in one day. That'd be ridiculous. But let's just say they watch The Force Awakens on a Friday, then on Saturday they watch The Last Jedi, then on Sunday they watch Rise of Skywalker. They only have a night to really process what happened. They're not going to watch like series on The Last Jedi or anything like that. No, they're going to wait that night or day, whatever it may be. There's a shorter time gap to watch these films, and for us, we had to watch it when they originally came out. And the reason why I'm saying that's important is because a lot of people were disappointed with The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. They were. But to say that a future audience wouldn't, it's hard to say, because since there's less time to process or really look at series, I think that people wouldn't be as disappointed as they were when those films came out originally. I think something that's also going to be apparent is the lack of connections within the films. You know, unlike with the prequel trilogy where there is a story underneath the execution and everything else that makes the films have a bad reputation, the sequel trilogy is kind of the opposite, where everything that the prequel trilogy failed at, the sequel trilogy did right, except there's no good story or overall universal tale. So when you walk out of the sequel trilogy or finish watching it, there's nothing to really hold. You know, nothing that's lasting. And that's a big detriment. And audiences, regardless if it's now or in the future, they're going to notice that. And that's Disney's fault. That's Lucasfilm's fault. You know, they failed. Like, I cannot express how horrible of an idea it is to have 3 separate directors make their own films with no collaboration with each other whatsoever. That is a terrible idea. And honestly, whoever designed that should be fired. That is a terrible idea. But they're not, because they're owned by Disney. God forbid, no one at Disney ever gets fired. Unless you go on Twitter and say inappropriate stuff, or that doesn't fit Disney's standards. That's basically the only way to get fired. I feel like it's a good way to segue into the reception of the fan base of films, because the difference between the sequel trilogy and the prequel trilogy is that the sequels have a digital history of the backlash. You know, you can go on YouTube, type in sequel backlash, there's an entire history. You can't delete that. That's there forever. And as we're going more technologically advanced, and getting more integrated into social media and online websites like YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all those websites and apps, I think as kids grow up, they're going to look at the past, they're going to look at the history of the backlash, and their own opinions are going to be formed about it. Let's just say they're going to be a child watching it, let's say in 20 years from now, they're going to look at it and they're going to go, oh, I like these films, I like the sequel trilogy, but as time moves on, maybe when they grow up, they're going to go online, and they're going to see reviews of people talking about The Last Jedi and stuff like that, and they're going to see that these people have a point on why these films aren't good and controversial, and probably their opinions are going to change on it greatly. or maybe not at all. Maybe that's going to split more fans, because this trilogy is very divisive, and it splits fans, and it's sad. To add to what I was saying, I think also with Disney themselves and the company, so after The Last Jedi came out, I think this is why a lot of fans hate the trilogy. It's not because of the films themselves, well, it does, but it's more Lucasfilm themselves and Disney, how they protect these films, where these people who work at Disney or affiliated with them, they write these articles bashing the fans, saying that the fans are just toxic man babies who hate Disney stuff and hate feminism and all that type of stuff, which isn't true, but they're saying it just to back up the films, because that's what they're doing, because these people who are writing these articles, they have to write these articles. They're forced to do this because they need those exclusive access passes to Disney events to get the latest scoop on whatever Disney project they're working on, and they need to do it to feed their families and get money, you know, and that's just the reality of it, you know. I mean, it sucks that fans are being labeled as that, but I mean, it's not true, but people are going to believe that. There's a saying that Star Wars fans, one thing to hate most about Star Wars is Star Wars itself. And yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I don't like everything about Star Wars. There's some things I hate about it. I mean, the franchise is so big at this point, there's stuff that I hate about it, you know. And people hate the sequel trilogy. They just don't like the films. They just don't like the direction it took. And I agree with it. They shouldn't have taken the direction that they did. The sequel trilogy actually took one of the worst ways to continue the saga, like one of the worst ways. But Lucasfilm and Disney didn't care about continuing the story. They wanted to market the film to everyone. That's the problem why. And when you watch the films, you basically see that. You basically do. And the future generations that are going to watch this trilogy is going to be apparent, or it's all going to come together. Because you watch the film and you're like, things don't feel like Star Wars here, don't they? You know, and it makes it very clear that if you were to tell that person in the future, hey, this trilogy is not meant for you, it's meant for Chinese audiences. China has 1 billion people in it, and for them to market it, I understand, but you can't completely change the film, the story, to make it more comfortable for a Chinese audience to watch. Because when the prequels came out, Chinese audiences saw Star Wars for the first time with The Phantom Menace, and they didn't like it. So I'm guessing Lucasfilm and Disney are like, hey, we need to make this more marketable to them. The legacy of the sequels revolve around what is it called? Identity politics and marketability to a country that has 1 billion people in it. Like, that's what the sequel trilogy is meant for. It's not for me, a Star Wars fan. It's meant for people in China. You know, trying to get Star Wars into Chinese audiences is a big deal. And I guess Lucasfilm is doing it now, but at what cost? You know? And that's a stigma around it. This real world stuff that affects the trilogy, which it shouldn't, but it is. You know? People nowadays don't really talk about the sequel trilogy. They just talk about how these films were made. How were they made? Why were they made? You know, ever since The Last Jedi came out and the backlash started, we've been learning more about the company that's making these films with Lucasfilm and Disney, how they operate, and it's changed how people view the company and Lucasfilm. You know, instead of just being excited for any Star Wars project, we have to see who is working on this project. Is it Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau? Are they working on something? Because that means it's going to be good then. If it's not, then we have to be cautious about it, which we shouldn't. There's no trust in the company anymore. And that's what future generations are going to look at, because it's digital history that's happening, that's still happening to this day. The one thing about the stigma is that people are going to make better films. They're going to see this trilogy and go, oh, this is what not to do. And they're going to make better films. Future filmmakers. That's what I see. That's what I think about the stigma of this trilogy. That people are not going to be as disappointed, but when it goes to Lucasfilm and Disney, it's going to get worse. But that can change, you know. I'm only 21. I can see this company change when I'm like 80, which it probably will be. because Kathleen Kennedy is way older than I am, and she probably wants to retire way sooner than you think. Maybe because, you know, she probably has a buttload of money being a CEO of a company like Star Wars, and, you know, it's just a matter of time before she retires, which I don't know what's going to happen. I think she wants to make things with Star Wars good, but it's going to take a lot of work, and I don't think she's really putting in the time for it, but we'll see. We'll wait and see. And so, to answer the question, will the stigma of the sequels go away? No, but it can change over time. Fifth thing, everything is changing. The world we live in is changing. Everything's changing. At this current point in time, one thing I am certain of is that people are not gonna be fond of this trilogy, and that's what it is now. And that's what it's always gonna be, because the film is a film, and you can't change a film unless you completely rework it or remake it, which they're not gonna do. So the film is just gonna be a film. The trilogy is just gonna stay the way it is. And there's gonna be fans. I like the trilogy, but there's a lot of things I don't like about it. But if it's on cable, then I'm gonna watch it. That's all I'm saying. But hopefully I didn't get canceled in the mix of this video, because I am very, very nervous that this video will get me canceled. But I doubt it, because I'm just expressing my opinions. You know, on YouTube you gotta get real, and this is what I'm doing. And some people are going to disagree, some people are going to agree, but whatever. I'm going to go now before I say anything else that's stupid or controversial, so I'm going to go now, so goodbye everyone.